You know, we hear all kinds of investment advice. Build an emergency fund, open a Roth IRA, contribute to a 401k, pay down your debt, start an HSA. It can all seem pretty overwhelming, and you sure can't do it all at once. So what should you prioritize first? There's some conflicting advice on this topic, but in this video, I'm going to share my own personal recommendations of the optimal order to invest your money when payday rolls around. If I was starting out again, this is what I would do. After this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts and if you would change anything. So please leave some comments below and hit the like button. First, you need to start with saving a small safety net. If you are truly just getting started, I recommend setting aside an initial minimum amount to cover at least 1 month of all your basic mandatory living expenses or any deductibles you may have on insurance policies, like car insurance, health insurance, or home insurance. Unexpected expenses always happen, and this initial emergency fund will protect you from falling further into debt when they do. You might have a medical bill or face a costly vehicle repair. Having this small emergency fund will give you a sense of comfort and security. Keep this money in a high-yield savings account so it's earning interest, but still completely safe and ready to use if needed. Remember that these funds are not for everyday expenses either. This initial safety net will cover most small emergencies, and then you can add more to it in a later step. Second, if you have access to a 401k, you should participate enough to get the full company match. I know it seems like maybe debt should come next, but contributing enough to get the full company match allows you to essentially double your money day one. That's a 100% return on your investment immediately. Nothing really competes with that. And then you can invest it for the long-term growth. Let's say you make $75,000 per year. That's $6,250 per month. If your company matches up to 4% of your salary, if you contribute 4% per month, which is $250, and then you get the full match, that would mean you can invest $500 per month into your 401k. If it grows at 8%, in 35 years, that account would be worth over $1 million. And that's without including any pay raises you might have. For the third step, now that you're getting all the free money that comes with your 401k match, it's time to tackle the high interest debt that you may have. But just the high interest debt at this point. According to LendingTree, the average credit card interest as I record this video is 24.8%. This is so dangerous. At that rate, any unpaid balance will double in just slightly over 3 years. Your credit card debt must be tackled right here. It's eating away at your income and massively restricts your ability to save. It's time to tighten the budget and throw everything you can at your credit card debt. This beats any investment. If you're paying 24% interest on a credit card, any money put towards that is equivalent to a guaranteed 24% rate of return on a tax-free, risk-free investment, and nobody should expect that. Getting rid of the credit card debt is such a huge step towards your financial freedom. After the credit card debt, work on any other high-interest debt. There's no perfect definition of what's considered high-interest debt, but I usually think of it as anything 8% or above. That's because the long-term rate of return for the stock market runs around 10%. And if we adjust for long-term inflation, we get around 7 or 8%. I'm not talking about any mortgage debt at this point, but any other high-interest debt that you may have. So number 4, it's time we add a little bit more to that emergency fund. Remember, it provides protection from increased debt when unexpected things happen. At this point, aim to build it up to a level where it can cover about 3 months' worth of your living expenses. This will give you a real psychological boost, knowing that you have this level of financial comfort in your life. That comfort can act as a springboard towards true financial freedom. Once you've worked hard to reach this point, you want to protect it and avoid going backwards in life again. Remember to keep it in a high-yield savings account so it's earning interest, but still completely safe and ready to use. So now that you have all the basic things covered in your financial life, it's time to get to the fun stuff. Number 5 is when you need to open a Roth IRA and try to max it out. I could easily make a case for an HSA here, but I'll explain why I'm putting the Roth IRA next. Even though it's a retirement account, it provides a lot of flexibility now and in retirement. If you can retire early, you can tap into these funds for income. That's because you can always withdraw your own contributions without any taxes or penalties. Plus, we still only have 3 months of emergency funds so far. So in case of a real emergency, the Roth IRA can help if truly needed. But make sure it's a true emergency. We don't want to be using a retirement account for anything that isn't a serious emergency. Additionally, a Roth IRA can help you manage your tax brackets in retirement. Plus, it can reduce your tax consequences on Social Security or any capital gains. There's a lot to understand here, and you need to fall under the income limits because these accounts are so beneficial, they're not even available to high-income earners. I recommend checking out my video on IRAs and all the tax strategies to consider. I'll put a link to it in the description below. Now, number 6. Let's talk about that HSA. If you qualify with a high deductible health plan, these accounts are triple tax advantaged. There's no taxes on the money going in, there's no taxes while it grows, and there's no taxes when you pull it out for health expenses. If used properly, these are really the best type of retirement accounts. In retirement, health expenses can be a major unexpected cost. However, if you don't need the money for health expenses, it basically turns into a traditional IRA at the age of 65 for any non-healthcare spending. It's important to understand how to use these in the most efficient way. I'll leave a link to a video of that also in the description. Number 7 comes with a little flexibility, and you can adjust it to your own situation and your personal feelings about a sense of added security. Ideally, it's best to have 6 months in an emergency fund. Thus, you might want to contribute a little bit more to that area at this point and build it up beyond just the 3 months worth of expenses. Number 8, I'm going to shake things up a bit and go against much of the common advice, and I'll break it down why. The common advice is to work on maxing out your 401k at this point. However, if you can still invest more at this point, you might want to split that between a 401k and a personal brokerage account, like a place like Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard, using low-cost ETFs. Before I get to the specifics, let's look at a quick example. Keep in mind that 401ks come with administrative fees, and investment options aren't sometimes as good as you can find in a personal brokerage account because they might have a little bit higher expense ratios. This makes the rate of return lower in a 401k. Let's say someone is looking at doing a traditional 401k, allowing them to avoid taxes on their contribution. And let's say they're in the 22% tax bracket. If they invested an additional $500 monthly into their 401k and it earned 8% for 20 years, it would be worth slightly over $286,000. However, when they withdraw it, they're going to be subject to ordinary income taxes. If they use that $500 of income, first paid the 22% tax, leaving $390 to invest in a personal brokerage account, something like the SP 500, earning 10% for 20 years, it would have grown into slightly more than $282,000. But this would be subject to long-term capital gains taxes, which are lower than ordinary income taxes. They are actually better off in many cases, and it gets even better. For example, if a married couple only had $100,000 of long-term capital gains during a year and no other income, after their standard deduction of $29,200, they would have $70,800 of taxable income. On the capital gains tax bracket, all of this would fall under the $94,050 threshold for a married couple filing jointly, and they would owe zero federal taxes on that. Keep in mind that to have $100,000 of long-term capital gains, someone may have sold $200,000 worth of stock, assuming 100% gain. Many times with some Roth withdrawals, Social Security, and a personal brokerage account, we can manage our tax brackets and end up paying zero on long-term capital gains in retirement, or at least keep them at rates below the ordinary income rates of a traditional 401k. Thus, a personal brokerage account can be an excellent part of any overall retirement strategy. Another advantage of a personal brokerage account is that you don't have to wait until you're 59 and a half to use it. Maybe you want to retire early or have a source of funds for any midterm goals that you may have, like maybe remodeling your house or upgrading your home. It simply adds much more flexibility to manage your finances in a way that fits your life. Now, if you are in a high tax bracket, you may want to prioritize the traditional 401k before the personal brokerage account. However, if your marginal tax rate is maybe 24% or less, you might want to consider splitting the extra investments between the 401k and the personal brokerage account. This will allow you more flexibility to manage tax brackets in the future. So step 8 includes both your personal brokerage account and additional investments into your 401k. No one can predict tax rates in the future, so it's a bit of an unknown. So if you prefer one of these accounts over the other, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to hedge your bets, you can split it up between them. Either way, both are in step 8 in the order of choice for you. Step 9, this is where you tackle any low to medium interest debt, unless you have a very low mortgage rate, like maybe 4% or below. If that's the case, you should not be looking to pay that off any faster than necessary. Any extra money should go towards investments. Now, before we move on to the final step, I want to clarify a few things. You might have noticed that I haven't mentioned saving for your kids' college. That's because your own financial future should come first. Prioritizing your own retirement is crucial. You can't take out a loan to cover your retirement, but your kids can find ways to fund their education, including working part-time or taking out some student loans if really needed. If you are financially secure, you'll be in a better position to help your children later. You don't want to risk your own financial stability worrying about college costs, and you certainly don't want your kids to stress about your finances when you retire. Remember the advice they give on airplanes. Put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting others. But if you have made it through step 9, then this is a great time to address those other areas. Finally, for step 10, consider your mortgage. If you do have a very low interest rate mortgage, especially something like 4%, it's usually best to stick with your regular payments and put the extra towards investments. A few years ago, rates got as low as 2.8%, making it one of the cheapest forms of debt ever. However, if you followed all the steps to this point, you're in a strong financial position. While there might be more financially savvy moves, sometimes it just feels incredibly satisfying to pay off that last bit of debt. It's your money and your choice, and eliminating your mortgage can bring a significant sense of freedom and accomplishment. So there's my optimal list. I'd like to hear your thoughts and changes that you might make to fit your situation and desires. Thank you for watching.